This week on the WVC. Trust me, like let's build some mutual trust. I feel like that's a super high compliment when they want you to party with them. Like you've done your job right if they are inviting you into their party. If that happens, I think you remember in the very first Toy Story, like they do the army men go down to like the birthday party or whatever, and they're like packing up, and then mom gets out the surprise gift, and the sergeant's like, "Turn that thing back on." I hear that in my mind every single time.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Wedding Vendor Chronicles, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of weddings and gives you an in-depth analysis from the perspective of the unsung heroes. Vendors, we're your hosts Ether and
I'm Cornell.
And today we have a phenomenal guest joining us, a talented videographer who knows how to capture the magic of weddings on film. Please give a warm welcome to the owner and videographer of Jordan Hopper Films, Jordan Hopper himself.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's going great. We're really excited to have you today. It's been an honor having you work with us for several projects as well, not only for couples we've worked with, but for some of our own videos. So
yeah,
we think it's a perfect time to have you on our podcast as well. So
yeah, I'm super excited. It was an easy yes.
Yeah.
To come on. So, you know, I've loved working with you guys. I love just like the energy you bring to events and weddings that we've worked together on. You guys are always a good time. So like I said, it was an easy yes to come on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, yeah, we just want to dive into it. We want to ask you some questions based off of your experiences in the wedding industry and kind of get your take on things. So first off, being a videographer, I always like to ask the question of how did you start with video, and like what's made you so passionate about it in the first place? And how early did that start on your journey? Was like back in a very early age in like elementary school, high school? Was it a little later than that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like one of my first memories was as a kid. I was probably, 8 years old. We had made gingerbread houses around like Christmas time or whatever, and it was like time to be done with them. And my dad had an idea to like, we could film like a little thing of us destroying them. Like he had an old bowling ball we were going to drop on the gingerbread houses. So he got out his camera and like we set it up and like we like made this little dialogue and we made like this thing. And I remember like, you know, on like it was like the old school camera that like recorded to like a full size VHS tape. I mean, This thing was like straight out of the late 80s, early 90s. Like it was, and so like, but I remember like popping the VHS tape in and like watching back that thing and be like, man, this is so much fun. This is so cool.
Yeah.
So that like flash forward a little bit to like high school, I was on the student produced TV show.
Wow.
I was a videographer for that. So that's where I kind of learned like editing and like video stuff, like some of like the basics there. Spent a year as like doing like news stuff, and then I did a year of doing like silly kind of fun stuff, and it kind of, I guess, ties into a little bit of like where I'm at now. Is I like to incorporate like fun into what I do. I like having it be like fun and bringing in a little bit of like my own humor or humor of whoever I'm filming, like having fun with it and kind of showing that through the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool to have those memories with the video camera and having your dad help out with that too. Just those things you'll never forget, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah. Did you ever make any home videos?
I remember my grandpa let me borrow his camera too. It wasn't maybe quite as big as it sounds like yours was, but we used to just do all sorts of silly stuff. And
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I used to make like these choreographed fights with my friend Ben. We used to make these lightsaber fights. Like I'm pretty sure like he was like my best friend. I'm pretty sure if I asked his mom I could find a dude. We used to spend hours like practicing these like choreographed, like not just like a 5-10 second fight. I'm talking like they were like a 10-minute fight where we had dialogue and everything.
Yeah.
This is for all those people that weren't alive in the 90s. Like this is what we did before YouTube. Is we had VHS tape, home videos. Like that's all we had.
Yeah. And you just went with however you could cut it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just what made it the best too, because it make it so much more funnier.
Right.
It's more precious in their own special way. So, yeah.
Oh man.
So with video, there's so many different avenues you can go down. I mean, you can do movies, like you said, your personal ones. You could be doing stuff for yourself. So what was it that brought you into the wedding industry? Like what's so special about that makes you inspired to be a part of that?
Yeah, I love getting to capture like once in a lifetime moments. That's, I guess, really what I get excited about on a wedding day. So thinking about like a first look, or like a mom helping her daughter get into her wedding dress, like zipping up the dress, or a first kiss, first dance, like all of those things, you get one shot at it. And it's like with movies, and like I've helped with like music videos and stuff, and it's like you can do different takes. You're like, all right, we'll try it again.
Fair enough.
It's, I don't know, it's almost like I almost like a little bit of the pressure where it's like you got one chance at it, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's also what makes it so special, is you get one shot at capturing the first kiss. And that's that couple's first kiss forever,
Yeah.
That's it. And so I don't know, it makes it feel more special. And so I like getting to capture those special moments, and then getting to share those back with the people, and just see their reactions, and like knowing that's something that they're going to treasure for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Do you ever still get anxious when you're filming stuff or that kind of stuff? Because that's just definitely
like every time.
Yeah.
Like every time. Like I'm always like quadruple checking, like, am I recording? Is my audio going? Like it's like a constant like fear in the back of my mind that I'm gonna miss it, because it is, like I said, it's a higher pressure thing. But yeah, it's like I'll constantly like double check, look at my camera.
Yeah.
And I've got like, my camera has like this big red light that tells you when it's recording or not. I'm like, I know I just saw that red light, but just in case, I'm gonna peek one more time.
Yeah, it's the same thing for us musicians too, especially when it comes down to the spotlight dances. We try to do our very best to learn it so that it's just like ingrained and ready to go, but I always like to have the lyrics there, and I'm just like,
It's a lot of pressure.
having it ready to go just in case, because you just never know what can happen, and
Right.
you don't want to ruin any type of moment when it's everyone's especially like looking at you too. And
those first dance, like father daughter, mother son, like
those are critical moments there, so
for sure.
And with you saying that, it's like almost, it's weird, I think, that people don't have a videographer sometimes at their weddings. Because even just now, and talking about not even wedding stuff, the gingerbread house, using your grandpa's stuff, me with the lightsabers and everything. Like, I remember doing that, but it's not the same as when you actually sit down and watch it. And, gingerbread houses and lightsaber fights are far less important than your wedding. And so I feel like that's something that you would always want to remember, and 5-10 years down the road, just pop it in and be able to watch it. So why do you think some people choose to opt out of not having video? And what would you say to those people?
I mean, I can speak from personal experience. This is before I was a videographer. When my wife and I got married in 2011, we were offered videography, and it was, I don't know, like $3,500, and like we're like, man, that'd be cool, but I just we're like, I don't know, it's like, it's a lot of money, and it is like, if you're hiring someone who's like a professional and knows what they're doing, like it's gonna cost you a little bit to like hire someone good, but I think you get what you pay for. And I think about that quite a bit. I'm like, man, I would have found a way. Like, if I could have it to do again, I would find a way to scrape together the $3,500 or whatever it was, because, like I said earlier, it's like once those moments are gone, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get one shot at it. And after the fact, like pictures and video, like that's all you have. And like we had a good photographer, and like I've looked back at the photos, but like I guess I think about like the people in my life who were there who are no longer with us. You know, like
Mm.
they've since passed away, but like how cool would that be to like if I had just a little clip of like my grandma and like I could hear her voice
Yeah.
in that wedding video.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And like not wishing any bad on anyone's like family members, but it's like you just don't know, like you don't know what's going to happen.
Mm.
So having those memories captured, you know, like I said, that I mean that's I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Is looking back now, if I could do it again, I would have found a way to have someone, because you can't get it back.
Yeah. Wow. It's powerful.
Yeah, pictures are only going to capture that second, and then the video really helps capture the memory and helping you remember exactly how it was. Because yeah, it's pretty critical for sure. So when you're going out and doing these videos for people, and you've got different clients looking at your work, what are some of the things that you're doing to make you stand out, so that your video looks a little different than maybe other videographers they could be looking to hire instead?
Yeah, I think like I want to stand out as like being someone that is like a pleasure to work with, and like had people like, to me it's the greatest compliment when at the end of the day when a couple is like, we're so glad that you were here, like you were so much fun, like I guess how I am able to serve them during that day.
Mm.
Like I want to stand out by that, you know what I mean? Like I want to be a pleasure to work with. I want to be someone who can help them get something if they need it. Like if they need, like I had a wedding this past year where like the bride's dress, like while she was getting ready, like something on it broke. So like we stopped what we were doing as far as the video was concerned, and we went and like found a sewing kit so she could like get her dress put back together, and so she could get married. You know what I mean? And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like in the moment I didn't even think twice about it. It's just like, how can I serve you to help you get there, you know, get to the goal of the day, which is to, you know, get married to the love of your life, and then, you know,
Yeah.
let's go celebrate after that. So like I want to stand out as far as that, but as far as like my work, I want to convey the like all of the emotions. Like I said, like there are like those sentimental, sweet kind of moments, and then there's funny stuff that happens. I had a video go up on my Instagram today of like a husband like dancing for his wife like at their reception, and it's like kind of like a silly thing. It's not like a super sentimental thing, but like
Yeah.
it shows who they are and like their relationship. So I love to showcase like who people are, their genuine relationships with that person that they're marrying. So as far as like my actual work, that's something I love to showcase.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because there's definitely things at weddings you probably won't ever see again, because it's just that moment. It's a
Yeah.
husband dancing.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just about to say that it's interesting because that made me think, you know, if you're going in with a plan, I mean, obviously you got to capture the first dance and all these things, but, you know, every couple has a different personality and it's going to be a different, like, moment. So how do you balance between, here's my plan of what I have to capture and what I'm going to capture, and, you know, I'm just going to roll and see what happens, or how exactly, because every couple is going to give you something different, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is something I've learned, like doing this, is whenever something's like happening, like if we have something staged or something planned, if like, okay, we're going to go out and do like sunset, like videos, and like, you know, you guys like running through a field, or like, you know, like doing like the Ryan Gosling where like he picks her up and they swing each other around the kiss and whatever. I mean, those are shots we do a lot, and like they look good. It looks good with like the sunlight and like all that kind of stuff. But something I've learned is don't hit stop record until well after I think they're done with something. Because I've seen it where it's like I hit stop and then something like, it's like once we like, okay, you're stopping doing the scripted thing, then something genuine happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that is something that is, I've been able to capture so many like cool things when it's like, okay, my brain says hit stop record, but I'm just going to let it roll. And then 10 seconds after, I catch something really cool and like a genuine like interaction between people. And, you know, it could be like after a first lick with dad, and then it's like, then like dad says something funny and they're like cracking up about it. And it was like, you know, like a really good, like timely joke. And it's like, if I would have just been like, after the sentimental thing hit, stop, oh, we're done, we got the shot, I would have missed that that next thing like, to go with it, like the joke or something like that. And it's like, I feel like that's just as important to capture and remember.
Yeah. Do you constantly have that where you're like, oh man, I wish I would have got that? Or as you've grown and learned over time, you're able to look back?
It's the stupidest thing in my mind. Every time when something like that happens, I think, do you remember in the very first Toy Story, like they do the army men go down to like the birthday party or whatever, and they're like packing up, and then mom gets out the surprise gift and the sergeant's like, turn that thing back on. I hear that in my mind every single time.
That's hilarious.
And then the radio drops off the thing.
Yeah.
Battleship, repeat. Battleship.
But over time, do you feel like that's kind of minimized because you're just like, I feel like this is going to happen?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like it's still...
Yeah, and the more I've done it, the more experience I feel like I've gotten in, like, yeah, something, like, there's a chance something might happen, so let's just let it keep going.
Yeah.
And I mean, just err on the side of overshoot, because then it's just like, if it's nothing, then I can just like go over that in editing and be like, well, that was nothing.
Yeah.
And kind of scrap it. And I feel like at like wedding receptions where a lot of that stuff happens too, is just like kind of just having my head on a swivel. As far as like when someone's doing something crazy, just being like ready at any given moment, like I just take off running across the room because it's like something's happening over here. I got to go get this, and just like,
yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like you always got to be prepared for lots of things. So, which I'm sure with all the vendors, there's all sorts of things, lots of tools you want to make sure you're having. So, to the listeners out there that are maybe looking to be a videographer for any occasion, what are some of the really important tools and things you prepare yourself for a wedding that you would want to make sure you have ready to go? So,
I mean, if someone's interested in being a videographer, spend time on like YouTube and Instagram, like looking at other people's stuff, like kind of getting a style, like getting a feel for what style do you like? What do you like? What are you interested in as far as like the style? And then beyond that, looking at different like shots. How do they kind of compose the shots? And then not being afraid to like practice. Like you can even practice composing a shot with like your phone. Like if you don't have a camera, like you can just take your phone out and just practice. Like, okay, they had it like, so like the bride and the groom were like this. So if you want to set up like a stuffed animal on your dog on your cell phone, like you can practice like that. Like the biggest way that I've learned is by just getting reps in of just like practicing and just doing stuff almost just for the sake of shooting something and learning how to get better. Because the more that you shoot something, the more that you practice editing something, that's how you're going to learn to get good, is like learning how to use your tools, learning how to like your editing software, how to use your camera. I really love like the mindset of like, I don't always have to be chasing the next like expensive piece of gear. because there's always going to be the next new camera that's like super fancy and it can do, 8K, all this other stuff. At the end of the day, it's like if you don't know how to use it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like learning how to use the gear that you've got, even if it's like super basic stuff, like you can still make really, really cool stuff out of that. Like I saw these guys that I follow, they did a thing where they went on Facebook Marketplace and they found the cheapest camera they could find. And they bought it from a person and then they made something with it. And like, I kind of want to do that too, of just being like, okay, I'm going to limit myself of just like, here's like the cheapest camera, like it might not be in good shape. It might be kind of beat up, whatever. And then like almost testing myself of, okay, I don't have my camera that I know all the settings. Like, let me dig in, let me learn some of these settings. Let me see what I can do with this thing that doesn't have all the bells and whistles of like my camera that I'm used to shooting with. And like, what kind of cool thing can I make with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy. You should do that thing where you like start off with a really cheap camera, make the video, and then try to barter for like the next level up camera. Make a video with that. Barter up to the next one.
Yeah.
Let's see if you. But yeah, that's interesting because like how much is equipment and how much is what you're doing behind the scenes, Because when you're talking about that, I just think of, they've made feature films using iPhones,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean that to me that's insane. Like I mean iPhone is a really good, phone and camera, but making a full length feature film that is produced and seen by the masses, I would never think about doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just my encouragement to someone who's interested in doing it is just start doing it, start teaching yourself and learning, and then you can kind of go from there. Like if someone wanted to get into like filming weddings, I mean, you could, if you can save up like $500, you could probably go get a camera from like Amazon or Walmart or Target or something that's good enough to get you by if you learn it and know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You could go film something, offer to do the first one for like free, basically. Like if you know someone like, hey, my sister's getting married, like they don't got a budget, whatever, to say, hey, I got this camera, let me do this for free. And you're basically paying yourself in experience and like learning how to do it. And then you also have something to like market yourself to show future people too, of being like, hey, this is what I can do. And then just kind of going from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to rely on the easiness of buying something so high tech instead of relying on the skill it takes to get into it. And it's hard for some people to remember, but yeah, I'm also curious, kind of backtracking to like the earlier days of Jordan Hopper films. I always like to hear the stories about the first wedding or like first project that you did that kind of brought you into the wedding industry. Could you tell us a little bit about that and like your biggest takeaway from that very first moment you got to do something?
Yeah. So my first wedding, I got asked by a friend of mine who he did filmed weddings and he needed a second shooter. Like I said, I'd always been interested in video stuff and like I'd done that stuff before and kind of had experience like growing up or whatever, but I hadn't done it professionally. And so like he was like, hey, like I need someone for this wedding, kind of told me the date or whatever. And so I was like, absolutely, I'm in, like that sounds fun. I did what I said. I was watching YouTube videos, like getting all these ideas or whatever. And so I showed up and I filmed it for him. He's like, this is your first time. Like, I can't really pay you, but I can give you like the experience. And if it works out, we can work together again.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. And so like I shot for him, used his gear. And like after I remember going home after that wedding was like, I loved that.
Yeah.
Like that was so much fun. Like I loved getting to do that, getting to like utilize that like creative part of my brain, getting to kind of just like see all those like there was just kind of like one of those like almost like like an enlightenment moment of just being like,
Yeah.
like I loved that. Like I know I want to do that. So
That's really cool. Yeah. So I'm also curious, just kind of off of topic of what you were asking, but when you're shooting a shot, do you already picture what it's going to look like when you're editing it? Or, you know, like, because you do the shot and then you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this. Or are you just going in the editing room or wherever you edit, and then you see stuff and your plan kind of develops from there?
yes. I mean, there are definitely times when it's just like, okay, I want to use this shot for this. But I like kind of like to my point earlier, I don't want to be so rigid where it's just like I've got a shot list and I'm just going to get my shots and then peace out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, there are times like when I'm like, okay, I really want this shot for this purpose. Like I want to establish like this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. I want to establish, you know, I want this shot for like one of like those sunset shots of like where they're like, you know, like hugging each other and maybe they're like or like holding their hands like walking off into the sunset. It's like, yeah, I want to use that to like end the film. It's like they're like walking off into the sunset and it's like fade to black.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times where it's like, yeah, I want to use this shot for this, but then there are other times when I'm like, let's let a genuine moment happen, and then I'll kind of piece it together like where I'm editing,
Yeah.
and like that's kind of how I edit. Is like I have my shots where I'm like, okay, I want to start it like this, I want to have like at this point in the video, I want it like this is where I want the first kiss to be, this is how I want it to end. And then like I kind of fill in between those gaps, but I'm like I want to build these moments, like, you know, listening to the song or songs that I've picked, like timing it up perfectly with the music or whatever, like have kind of these like rocks that I'm gonna have in the film, and then build around those of like, okay, like what's gonna make sense around these rocks to like tell the story of how we're getting there or how, you know, where we're going from there.
Wow. I'm sure also that there's so much that, you know, whether you're a guest or even just somebody that's watching a video that you're producing, there's so much behind the scenes that we don't see. And I'm sure there's probably like some pretty crazy stuff because you got to go like on the party bus and all that stuff. So are you ever looking through and you're like, I can't put that in there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff where it's just like I can't like there's stuff like I can't even put that on social media. Like, I'll get in trouble. I mean, sometimes like parties just like sometimes just go off and people are doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
The B cut.
Uh-huh.
You ever offer to give that to the brides? Here's what you can post on social media, but here's what really went down.
This is for your eyes only. Yeah. Like if you say you got this from me, I will deny it. That kind of yeah. I have offered some of that stuff to brides, and being like, hey, if you're interested, here's this. Yeah. But like,
are they usually excited about that, like to get it, or they're?
Yeah, like there was a wedding I did this past summer where they at the reception, like it was going crazy. Like they went hard the entire night, and like the bride, her sister, her brother, all came up to me and were like, "We need all this footage." Like
we want everything.
They did. They wanted everything, and it was almost like they wanted, like, kind of going back to like those home movie things. Is like they're like, we don't really care if it's like edited or like professional, but they just like they wanted to remember that time together of like them as siblings. Mm-hmm. And that's super cool to be able to like offer that to people. It's like almost like a home movie kind of style thing where it's like, but it's just like they get to remember those like, oh man, do you remember when when Lucy and John were going crazy on the dance floor and started pouring shots and all this,
Yeah.
whatever.
Low.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Jordan Hopper Films. At Jordan Hopper Films, we believe that you deserve to have your special moments captured and crafted into a keepsake that you can treasure for the rest of your lifetime. For more information, please visit jordanhopperfilms.com.
Man, that brings out the weddings. I feel like for you, it's such a balance that you have to strike because depending on how long you're shooting, it's like you have to capture all these wonderful, intimate, like the vows and like, John, I promise, like all those things. But then, I mean, people do want to see the party stuff too, though. Like, I mean, people going crazy and having a good time. And I feel like those are almost like two separate things that you have to capture, but usually have those as one video, right?
Yeah, and that's something I'm starting to like in a wedding film, like intentionally build them a little bit longer, and it's like almost like two different wedding films within one film. So like first we start out with like more of like a sentimental song, and we get like more of like the John, the moment I laid eyes on you.
If you would have told me.
Right. Right. Yeah, that kind of
go.
And then like kind of like, and then the second half is like something like a more upbeat song, where like it transitions into like more of like a party, and then I can bring in more of like the the best man reading from a napkin, like whatever, whatever, and then like more like that party footage and stuff like that. So that's something I'm trying to incorporate going forward, is like find that balance of being like, hey, here's that the more, I guess, traditional wedding film, like that sentimental stuff, but here's the party too, and like because both are important to the couple. You know what I mean? It's like they want to remember all those sentimental things and like have the pretty shots, but they also want to remember like, man, we partied our butts off with our best friends, our family, that we don't get to see that often. Like
went crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had like the time of our lives because Becky and Tim got married.
Yeah, all those things are important. Have you ever, I was just thinking when you were talking about the best man speech and everything, have you ever had stuff that you're filming and then earlier you were talking about, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have pressed stop, but did you ever film it and you're like, all right, stop.
Yeah,
I can't put that.
There's a lot of times like I'll mic up like an officiant or whatever, and then it's like, then they decide they need to go to the bathroom after I put on a mic, and so I get that lovely audio and I'm listening back. I'm like, all right, cool. This is happening. Yeah, I mean, wedding parties, when they're like the mics, like if I set up that mic on you and you're just like hanging out, like it's just set to on, like it's just going. So there's
sometimes they forget.
There's some wild stuff. I'm just like,
dude, yeah.
Deleted.
Have you ever seen that video of they were mic'd up and the bride was like walking down the aisle, and I think it was like the best man or something that was like, whoa, look. He said something like way out of left field, and he was like, dude, we're mic'd up. Like, crazy video.
I mean, there was one we were filming, and in the middle of the best man's speech, the groom, he had to go to the bathroom.
In the middle of his speech?
In the middle of the best man's speech, he's like, I can't hold it anymore. And the group just pieced.
Dang.
From the stage. I was like, all right. I guess we're going to do this.
Dang, man. We've seen some terrible best man speeches. Actually, I don't know. I think the worst ones are probably the dad speeches.
Yeah.
The dad speeches, man.
They either were super long or super awkward.
Oh man.
They always think they have to tell all the jokes about
Right.
everything. Like they have to embarrass their child in front of all their friends and family.
Yep.
I don't understand I think maybe that's just something they see at other weddings. So like they think they have to do the same thing or what, but
Dude, we were at this one wedding, and I think the dad had been married before, so obviously she was there, and he was like thanking his current wife. He was like, "Oh, thanks Lucy or whatever so much, blah blah blah," and he was like, "Oh yeah, and also thank Mike." And there's this other guy that just kept going, man. He was like, "All right, this is the last story." I guarantee you, his speech was like 30, at least 30 minutes, bro.
Dang.
At least 30 minutes, bro. That was
Dang.
crazy.
But at the same time, like I have seen some super cool like creativity in those speeches too. I did a wedding where like the bride was a super big Hamilton fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so her sister took one of the songs from Hamilton and like made her speech like to that music, but like changed the lyrics to be about her sister.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Like like she worked it out with like the DJs, so he like played the music like in time with her and like paused it when she would like give like an actual speech and then like go back into the music where she was like almost like rapping the like, but it was about like she changed the lyrics to be like about her sister.
Yeah, no, I gotta see that.
So like that was super cool.
Yeah, I guess there also has been some pretty. I think there's probably maybe one time when somebody was giving a speech and I like almost started crying because this dude was crushing it, bro.
yeah.
Like he was crushing it. Dude. I was like, "Great job, man! Great job."
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this season, for you doing weddings and everything, what do you want to be different, or what have you taken from last year that going into this season that you're like, I want to make sure that I really focus on this to try and get better, or I want to try and start capturing these shots more often than I have in the past?
Yeah. So something that I've kind of started doing and like I want to continue to do is getting shots that are like dual purpose as far as like the format that they get delivered in, like shots I can use in an actual film. But I've kind of had fun like creating stuff for like social media in like that like vertical format. So having stuff that are like dual purpose shots, because people love like if I can give them something to post on Instagram or whatever, like I feel like couples love having something to like show off of like, oh man, do you remember like this moment or whatever, like again, having like sentimental stuff to like post on their Instagram, but also like fun party stuff of being like, oh man, that was crazy. Like I did something, it was like the groom and his buddies were out there singing Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card.
Yeah.
And like I posted it and like he shared it to all of his friends and they were like they all loved it. So shooting stuff more like that to like again just to like add value to a couple of like it's not just like a wedding film that you're paying for. Like I'm gonna get you stuff to like post on your social media so you can like share your friend with your friends and family and like again just remember all of those good times that you guys had like celebrating your wedding.
So yeah, that's interesting. The social media seems like that's what's kind of evolved into a lot of sharing it almost instantly to right after the wedding. Do you find a lot of couples asking for very specific things that they want for social media, and are there certain trends that you're noticing with that?
I mean, I'm noticing like I've not yet seen it, but I've heard a lot of people talking about like people hiring a content creator. So it's like they would have me there to be a wedding videographer, and then they'd have a content creator who's just running around on an iPhone, and then like they're gonna edit their stuff for like TikTok or Instagram or whatever. So I guess like I said, I want to be able to like offer, if that's something people are interested in, is like having something. Part of like my packages are like within 48 hours, I'll deliver you something that is edited for like social media. And I've done it before. We're at the reception. It's kind of like, I mean, it was kind of winding down. So I had my laptop with me. I went and sat somewhere and I edited something. And like before I left, I walked up to the bride. I was like, "Hey, you got your phone?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Is your AirDrop on?" She like looked at it. Was like, "Yeah." And I AirDropped her a video, and like she lost it. Like she was like, "No way! Like this is so cool."
Yeah.
So that was a super cool thing. It like I want to give people like while they're kind of still feeling that like that excitement and that high of we just got married, like to have like a sneak peek like video, like just getting to like share, like giving that to them so they can share it out and be like share that excitement of like, oh, we're so excited, we're so happy, like we had the best day of our lives. Like that's something that I'm trying to do and like kind of meet that need that people are looking for as far as like Instagram or TikTok style videos, but like quick.
Do you think that video and even like photography too, do you think it can ever capture what the moment is truly like? You know what I mean? Because yeah, you do have that high from being there. It's like if I go and watch, Michael Jackson performing at the Super Bowl, like I can feel the electricity, but it's like, it's not the same as like being there. So do you try to shoot in a way that you don't really have that distinction, or do you think that it's always going to be one or the other?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to capture those moments, but I feel like you can get close.
Yeah.
Like you said, like with the Super Bowl thing, like you can like what you feeling the electricity of like that performance of being like, oh man, he was like on one.
Killed it, bro. Killed it.
Like and like I would say if the person who like edited that together like knew that, they would be like, I did my job then.
Yeah.
But there is still something about like being there.
Yeah, you just have to experience it.
Right. But like photo and video are the best way to like capture those things, so you can like kind of have like a teaser of like, and that helps you like remember like, oh man, like that dance party was lit.
Yeah. Get as close as possible.
Right. Or like, you looked so amazing in your wedding dress. Like I love getting to like see that moment of like a husband getting to watch his wife walk down the aisle again, like because we filmed it. Mm-hmm. Like getting to see her walk down the aisle again, like that's cool to get to relive that. It won't necessarily like be the exact same as when it happened, but it's as close as you can get.
Yeah, I think probably it's as close as you can get. And I think that even if you're there, that moment that the bride's walking down the aisle, I think that video just has that unique ability to do that, to just capture emotion, but also evoke emotion. That's why we watch like the same movies over and over, even if we know that we're gonna cry or we're gonna laugh. Every time I watch Liar Liar, I'm gonna laugh, bro. Like I've seen that movie 200 times, and no matter what, I will always laugh at the same exact moments. And so I guess it'd probably be the same with people getting those moments and seeing that and being like, oh my gosh, I remember exactly how I felt when I was there or when I was doing this.
Yeah. That's what I like. That's what I want to do is like when you're watching back something I filmed, I want you to feel the moment, like the emotions that you felt in that moment when you're watching it. Mm-hmm. Like to get you back as close as I can possibly get you to that moment.
Yeah. That's crazy. Do you ever have brides that are doing or asking like really crazy stuff of you? Do you have brides that for videography want a very specific look, or do they just usually say, you got it, take off, king?
I mean, I try to do a really good job of like setting expectations. Like if someone inquires with me, it's like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Like this is what I'm offering you, and like ask them for like their input. Like, hey, is there anything that you want to make sure that we get? But like, I think establishing like a trust thing of like, I'm going to listen to you and like listen to what you say is important, kind of thing. Like, make them feel valued and like build that trust with them, but then asking them to kind of trust me a little bit too. Of like, like, you're hiring me for a reason, so
Yeah.
you know. So thankfully, I haven't had like a crazy like, well, you need to get this shot. You need to get like almost like micromanaging kind of thing. So I've been fortunate not to have that, but I think it just kind of starts early in the relationship with the client of being like, all right, like, I'm going to trust you if you can trust me. Like, let's build some mutual trust.
Yeah,
I'm
think
sure
that's essential for sure.
I'm sure you guys have similar with like the band.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know we talked to the couple. We let them know like we want to customize it to what you want it to be, but you also want to keep in mind like what your guests are going to enjoy. Because if you want this wedding to be, you know, a party where you're getting people out on the dance floor, you got to be thinking about them too, and making sure you have songs that everyone will recognize and jam to. So
Yeah, we always ask our couples what their vision for the reception is. And I think that question is so important because it lets us build out from there. Because it's hard when it comes to the music. For some couples are like, I want this song, I want this song, I want this song. And they could be great songs and they could be really important and sentimental to that couple. But when you compare that with like, okay, you told me that your vision for this wedding is like basically a rager. Like you want people dancing on top of tables and like streaking, or, you know, whatever the vision is. But you told me that you want us to play Evanescence. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, not the Evanescence can't get you there, but yeah. So we always ask for that, like the vision of what the wedding is, and that's really it's pretty hard for couples, I think, sometimes because they have to manage. Like, all right, we can, you know, cater to you, but we can also make sure that it's the vision that you want.
yeah, which I'm assuming maybe sometimes, but maybe not. You have couples that say they have a certain color scheme or something, right? Do you find yourself having to change anything about how you do things to like make the video look like a certain way? Like if it's like more of a darker tone for some moment for whatever reason, or like they want it to be like a very bright color. Like, do you get things like that from brides? At least they say what they want to see that in the video or anything like that?
Yeah, and it kind of just depends on like the couple and what they're kind of looking for. But yeah, if I know that going in, like we want like it to be like a more of like a moodier feel. Like having those conversations beforehand is super crucial, because if I know that, I can shoot in a certain way to make sure that they get that. That's if that's what they want. Same thing with like a brighter, like more brighter colors and stuff like that. And then, you know, like kind of thinking about, even if those conversations aren't said, like thinking about those things, like if the bridesmaids' dresses are all like a super like bright blue and there's like getting lots of shots of that, it's like, okay, well, we might need to like make it look a little more colorful. We don't want to like mute that color. But then if they're like in just like all like black and white and it's like more serious, like maybe a little bit darker here would make sense. And I feel like, again, just kind of like establishing that trust. And I almost value like my social media posts as like, that's how I'm depositing trust into people of being like, here's what I'm doing. Like, this is my work. This is what I can do. You know, I feel like it's the same for you guys too. If you're showing stuff of the band and like there's people going crazy at this party, it's like almost like, hey, like we can play Evanescence, but like if you want your party to look like their party, like we might have to go with like Uptown Funk, you know?
Yeah, you might have to just trust us. Like we got something for you. Don't worry about it. We got something.
Bruno Mars is gonna get the people going a little bit more than Evanescence.
You know what's crazy? We've had people say no Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
We've had actually like probably a handful of times people know Bruno Mars. I'm like, what? How could you not want Bruno Mars?
Yeah, that sometimes people said no September from
Oh,
Earth,
yeah.
Wind & Fire.
Yeah.
And I get it. You don't want your wedding to be like somebody else's wedding. Like, oh my gosh, they did that person's wedding. But there's just a certain magic about some songs that it's a reason why everyone loves it.
Right.
Yeah.
You just gotta have it.
You gotta have September at the wedding.
Yeah.
Man. You gotta.
Yeah, we're actually gonna have a wedding this year for the first time. I think it's actually on the 21st of September.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
So
right?
we're actually gonna be singing it
On the,
just like that. So
I love it.
But see, that would be like a moment that you capture
that
on video, you know? 'Cause
yeah, that
it'd
would be an amazing
Right.
video.
Yeah, it's the 20. Yeah, that would be.
Do you remember the 21st night of September?
Yeah.
Like, hope so.
That'd be like
Yeah.
the opening title scene
Uh-huh.
of that video for that couple. That'd be pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really dope.
For you, Jordan, looking back to all the weddings you've done, is there like a special, significant moment that you're like the most proud of? That, you know, if someone's asking like, hey, what's like something you could show me? Like, is there a certain like thing you've shown everyone that's like, this is my favorite thing I've done? Or can you tell us like a story about if there's a moment like that at all?
Oh man. I remember like one of the first clients that I had, like as just me, like solo me, like doing their wedding. And like when I delivered their film back to them, just like their reaction, like I actually sent it, like they did a delayed honeymoon. By happenstance, I delivered their film and they got it like while they were sitting at the airport waiting to get on the plane to go to their honeymoon.
Dang.
And so like, I don't know, just like their reaction in that, like that was, I don't know, that's like a special, like I can remember like where I was when I got their reaction like back, like when they responded with like, oh my gosh, like we love it, like we're actually in the airport getting ready to go to Cancun, like all this like I was like, no way, that's so awesome. And then like they got back and they're like, we're so glad we downloaded it because we've like watched it like 4 or 5 times like while we were in Mexico and all this stuff. And
Dang.
like, you know, and I didn't like share that to like anyone, but like that's, I mean, and that's like, for me, that's like, that's what it's all about is like, I captured their day for them and like, and it was eliciting all those memories for them of being like, yeah, that was our day together. But yeah, as far as like every couple, it's really just different. Like that one, I think you guys did a wedding where she was a guest.
Oh, really?
That,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Is
yeah,
that
this one bride, we won't
Yeah.
name names, but
Yeah.
like they were partying hard at that reception.
yeah.
I don't remember.
I'll remind you off air.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, snap.
But like what they wanted was like that, because like that was like super, like that party was out of control. Like they were going hard that night. So like they would want to see like that, like they loved like that kind of footage. But then there are more like couples where it's like, if I give them like a 15-second clip of like where it's just like they're outside doing whatever, like, you know, so like walking through a field, or like we're taking shots in like downtown, or like crossing the street or wherever, like it kind of just depends on like kind of feeling out the couple and what their vibe is, as far as like those little moments where it's just like, here's a little taste.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have something that maybe they ask you stylistically what they're looking for, and it's maybe not a good fit or something, you know? Or because like I feel like I would want my wedding video to be like all black and white or something, or like the intro of Succession. Like I would want like the entire video like that.
Black and white would be cool. Like that would be a cool like to edit it like with like, hey, it's just gonna be all black and white.
Yeah, I
Like,
would want
that would be a cool vibe. A lot of times I feel like I try and work in pretty good lockstep with the photographer for a wedding day too, and so like I'll like bounce ideas off of them. Is like, hey, what are we thinking here? And it's almost like if the bride wants something, and if the photographer if I've done my job right, I've built some relational equity with on the day. If we're both kind of like, no, I don't think that's the move for this. Like 99 times out of 100, like the bride will listen to us because it's like they trust me, they trust the photographer. So it's kind of like, okay, like you guys do this professionally. Like I'm just gonna trust you. Sometimes brides will ask for shots, and it's like, all right, I'll do it. I'll shoot this shot, but probably not gonna make it in the film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if they really are like dead set on like, hey, I want this, I can do it, but at the end of the day, that might just be something that I just deliver to them, like separately. Of like, hey, you really wanted this, I'll send you this privately. If you want to post it, go for it. But like, I'm not gonna like incorporate that into the film because I have, like I'm putting my name on that film. Like this is mine. You know, it's yours, but it's also mine. Like I'm putting my name on it. So
you trust your judgment. Yeah.
Right. But like I said, if someone's absolutely dead set on something, I'll do it for them and like I said, like deliver that to them separately.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that maybe it's just something that you don't think about so much because I think a lot of times that trust is built there naturally, but when you actually get to the wedding day, because most times the couples, they haven't gotten married before, and there's been a lot of times where they'll say something like that day and we're like, that ain't gonna work. You try to say it in the nicest way possible, but you're like, I think it'd be better if we did this, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, we've done this hundreds of times. This is probably your first time doing this.
Yeah. And they roll up to the reception and they're like, all right, thinking the second set is all ska.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, that could work, but
yeah.
Here's another idea.
I don't think we've ever had a time where we just blatantly were like, nah, we're not doing that. We try to fit like at least something, like a lot of times people ask for polka music and we're like, all right, we'll do one polka song,
but it does get everybody dancing.
Some of those smaller towns in Nebraska, you bust out the polka, everybody's up on the dance floor.
There is no.
Yeah, that's the one. In Heaven There Is No Beer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was one of the last weddings I did last year. They did Heaven There Is No Beer, and I mean, there was every chair in the house was empty because everybody was up there for In Heaven There. Grandma Betsy, 90 years old, is up there for In Heaven There Is No Beer.
Yeah, I think the challenging part of it is knowing how to transition from a polka song to something else.
Right.
This is how we do. That would go crazy.
Yeah, and Heaven There Is No Beer to No Diggity. Like the way you work it.
So that makes me think of the videography side of it now, because throughout the wedding day, there's multiple emotions being felt throughout the whole day. Do you ever find yourself having to be that person that's like, all right, now let's shift the mood to this? Like, what does that look like? Like,
it's time to be happy.
Is that ever? Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, I think allowing people the space to have those emotions in those moments, it's like almost it lets it almost kind of resolve itself. So it's not like it's like feeling like unresolved of like, oh, we had this sweet sentimental moment, like we maybe started to like shed a tear. Finding that balance of like letting that moment like play out for a minute before it's like, all right, we're gonna go do some goofy pictures with you and your bridesmaids now. Like, you guys giving each other piggyback rides and like whatever. Like, like let those moments play out. And same thing with like the goofy stuff. If like let people be goofy for a little bit before it's like, all right, I want you to stare into the eyes of your new spouse and like tell them how much you love them.
Yeah.
So having a feel for that and like letting it play out, but also like sometimes you do have to like gently usher us on to like the next thing, because we can't just like, I don't know, sit in the parking lot and drink Busch Lights out of the cooler all night,
Right.
which is sometimes where it's like, all right, guys, we're moving on. We're moving on from drinking beer in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh man, sometimes you could tell though, the groups, that they just want to party, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, oh yeah, we got married today, but like forget that. Like,
Yeah, they start the drinks at 2 or even earlier than that, like 10 a.m. or something.
oh my gosh, man, they're ready to go. I mean, I don't usually spend any time on the party bus, but sometimes if I'm emceeing, like I'll have to go onto the party bus to, and I just see the tail end, man. It's some crazy stuff on there, man.
There are times like I'm on the party bus and like I've had it where it's like the couple's like, do a Jello shot with us. I'm like,
You gonna do a Jello shot? You gonna do a Jello shot?
I mean, you hired me. You are my boss today, so I guess
It is part of my contract. So. That's fun though. It's a fun time when they want you to party with them. Like I hate, I get asked people like hand you drinks while you're singing on stage or hand you shots, and it's really fun because they want you to be a part of the party. I usually say no just because I'm like, I don't want.
Yeah, and like that's one of those things too of like I kind of have to use like my discretion where it's like do a Jello shot, but then you're gonna get off the party bus, you're gonna drive your car and follow us for 45 minutes. It's like, well, I gotta drive, y'all.
Yeah.
So like, but I agree with what you said. It's like I feel like that's a super high compliment when they want you to party with them. Like you've done your job right if they are inviting you into their party.
Yeah. That's a fun. I mean, honestly, man, like I'm just thinking as far as vendors go, it's like we're all pretty much, I don't want to say we're all doing the same thing, but we all play a part in making this wedding special. Like at one point we're all being kind of like the MC or like keeping the timeline in check or whatever. But at the end of the day, man, like we get to just every weekend just basically party with people, like hang out, be in on one of the most important parts of these people's life. It's a lot of hard work. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, every weekend we just get to party pretty much,
Yeah. It's such a privilege to be part of people's days, and I like working with other vendors who kind of view things that same way of like we're here to serve the couple, but like we want them to have a good time, and if we're doing our jobs, like they're going to invite us into having a good time with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's really special to me and why it's worth it is that in a way I feel like since we were part of the big day, we've almost become family to them or like super close friends because you don't just invite anybody to your wedding all the time, and I don't take that very lightly. So yeah, I like to try to follow people like on social media after, just like see how they're, because it's really cool to see like a couple from 8 years ago. It's like you remember their wedding and then all of a sudden you see like their family now and like
Yeah, getting
Just
to see like
That's
pregnancy announcements
Yeah.
for them, or
all
like
that.
you know, some people like it's like okay, like so and so's like first day of kindergarten, like their kid's first day of kindergarten, like yeah,
Yeah.
it's super cool to get to see that and like yeah, feel like you're like a friend.
And it's crazy because you feel like that feels like it was only a year ago,
Right.
and that was already 8 years ago or whatever, you know. So
Yeah, no, we were just at that vendor thing not too long ago, and one of the brides that we had was there, and she was talking about the wedding, and I think it was only 2 years ago, man. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it seems so long ago. And speaking of video, she, you know, what you post on social media, you know, maybe it doesn't get 10,000 likes or whatever, but it was this 5-second clip of a video on an iPhone, and she was like, I watch this all the time. She was like, this was one of the best moments of the entire night. And like, to me, I mean, obviously it's not my wedding, you know, and I look at that video, I'm like, oh, it's like a 5-second video. It's not like, but she literally was like, this, I watch this daily. She's like, this was one of the best moments of the entire night. And it's just them like kind of spinning around, dancing and like smiling, and that's it. But it's so important to her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like completely agree. Like doesn't matter like for me if my stuff gets like a ton of likes or whatever, but it's like when someone like if it's a bride or a groom, if they comment on it and are like, I love this, like I can't stop watching this, it's like that's who it's for. You know, it doesn't like I don't need to go viral. Like
Yeah.
it's cool, but like giving them that like, oh man, like I get to remember this from my wedding day for the rest of my life, and like they get to feel those like all those good feelings again whenever they watch it. Like that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, this has been awesome. A great conversation, and thank you so much for coming on the show, sitting down and chatting with us. For our listeners or any of the other vendors or anything like that, where can people go to, you know, find your services or hire you?
Yeah. On Instagram, TikTok, Jordan Hopper Films, and my website is jordanhopperfilms.com. Happy to be a resource to couples, vendors, anyone like that. Like even if you're not hiring me in particular, like if you have questions about wedding days, wedding videos, whatever, I'm happy to talk with someone, help point people in the right direction. And I really value video to the point where like I will help you find another videographer if I'm not a right fit, just because like I really believe that that's something that's important for people, is to have those moments captured on video as well as photo for like a wedding day.
Yeah. Well, great. Before we kind of wrap things up, we have a tradition. So a lot of times as the vendors, you know, we're putting in all these hours, and then at the end of the night when you're starving and you go to the cake table and there's nothing there, you're like, dang, like I just want a piece of cake.
Just anything.
I know, the little Chex Mix or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But so we've got a little piece of cake for you.
Oh man.
To just honor all those times that yeah, we'll all share.
Thank you.
All right. Either looks like he's
I'll
got
do
his
the
eye on the
chocolate
chocolate.
one
All right. Another episode
Yep.
in the bag.
Cheers.
Great job, friends. Cheers.